What's that really old saying they say? Something like, if you want peace, prepare for war, and if you want war, you should also prepare for war? So basically you should be preparing for war either way, but especially if you plan on checking out Total War Warhammer 3 when it hits PC Game Pass on day 1 on February 17th. To help you out with that, we've helpfully broken down each of the game's playable factions so you know which gaggle of bloodthirsty monsters or bear-riding warriors is right for you. Now take it away, Benny.
The Kislev get kind of a raw deal. Not only do they have to live in one of the coldest and most unforgiving parts of the world, but they're also humanity's first line of defense against the demonic hordes to the north. So safe to say they've gotten pretty tough. And they've also developed a nice line in furry hats and armoured polar bears, as well as the supernatural talents of whatever ice witches and frost maidens you can afford to hire. The Kislev are also a devout bunch. Keep your soldiers' belief burning with a regular supply of demons to thwack, and you'll be rewarded with devotion, which can then be used to issue a quick prayer. That might not sound like much, but when you're in a real pinch, asking one of the guys upstairs to drop down a well-placed lightning bolt or two can make all the difference. On the other hand, committing heretical acts like declaring war on another Kislev faction will see your devotion levels plummet and leave you to fend for yourself.
Not to be confused with the new metal sensation of a similar name, the Khorne take after the blood god himself, and as such, some of the least friendly folks you'll encounter in the Chaos realm, which is really saying something, by the way. All these guys want to do is slay their enemies and chomp on their remains. They think that magic is for cheaters and ranged weapons are for cowards, although they do like using cannons to bombard the enemy with skulls of their fallen comrades. Basically, if you want to eschew complicated strategies and go straight for the jugular, the Khorne are the way to go. They're led by the likes of the legendary Lord Scarbrand, a winged demon who's been cursed with a bottomless appetite for war, much like me at an endless buffet, and also the exalted Bloodthirsters, who are very passionate about the whole death to mankind thing. The lower ranks are made up of the Hellblade-wielding Blood Reapers and the hordes of Chaos Warriors, all of whom are well equipped to dominate the battlefields they find themselves upon. In general, the Khorne are all about burning things to the ground. Raising an enemy settlement provides you with 2 possible bonuses to choose from. Skulls for the Skull Throne provide you with 1,000 bony faces to appease your god with, granting you all kinds of fabulous buffs in return. While Blood for Blood God replenishes your forces and spawns a shiny new Bloodhost army for you to command as well.
We don't go in for stereotyping here, so it's important to note that not all demons are frenzied lunatics who roam around lopping people's heads off. There's also the Tzeentch, who are a much subtler, more sophisticated sort of terrible. Known as the Demons of Knowledge, Magic, and Betrayal, all Tzeentch troops enjoy a magical barrier which protects them from damage and quickly recharges outside of battle. So while they're not as meaty in the melee as the Khorne, they are ideal hit and runners. They're led by the twin-headed legendary Lord Kairos Fateweaver, whose ability to perceive the future is sort of balanced out by the fact that he is completely out of his mind. Although it does allow you to gauge how long it will take for enemy reinforcements to arrive with 100% accuracy, which is pretty handy. The Tzeentch Heralds and Lords of Change are also pretty effective spellcasters, allowing them to swoop across the battlefield, dealing out all kinds of magical pain, while the Blue Horrors like to take a more direct approach, charging straight towards the enemy and squeezing the life out of them. If you like to cause chaos from afar and dazzle your opponents with dark sorcery, the Tzeentch are the way to go. And as Warhammer 3 is a PC Game Pass Day 1 release, your malevolent magic days are coming very soon indeed.
Led by the god of death and decay, the Nurgle are considered to be a bit extra even by the other Chaos factions, but they are also one of the most interesting to play as. Rather than constructing brick and mortar buildings the way the other factions do, the Nurgle produces growths, which kind of go through a cycle of death and rebirth. The most disgustingly fun thing about them though is that they let you design your very own custom plagues, afflicting the enemy with all sorts of nasty symptoms. Naturally, your own troops are so gross that these viruses actually make them stronger. For example, spreading a pox to your settlements will actually help them grow faster, while rot continuously adds new Nurglings to your recruitment pool. And they are really, really gross, from the basic Nurgles to the slobbish beasts of the Nurgles, right up to the great unclean ones. Playing as the Nurgle gives you access to the sorts of sickening soldiers who can defeat the enemy just by standing too nearby. And if you have no qualms about the chemical warfare and exceptionally low standards for personal hygiene, you might want to pledge your allegiance to the Plague God.
The seducers of Slaanesh are proof that being bad doesn't mean you can't have a good time. In battle, they benefit from a unique lore of magic capable of leaving the enemy in a state of dim-witted euphoria, whipping them up into a frenzy or confounding them with mischievous illusions. All kinds of delicious, deeply unsportsmanlike tactics. Most insidiously, they can use their seductive powers to convince some enemy units to switch sides, even before the battle has begun. Unlike the other Chaos broods, the Slaanesh are skilled diplomats as well as deadly fighters. Over the course of the campaign, they can bat their demonic eyelashes in the direction of other factions to gain seductive influence over them. And when the fighting begins, their infantry units can all slice and dice with the best of them, using their chariots and Hellstrider cavalry to provide even more lethal ground speed. If you've always wanted to break the enemy's hearts before you break their spines, the Slaanesh could be the deliciously evil demons you've been looking for.
The odds may be stacked against them, but don't count the forces of mankind out just yet. Not so long as they've got the Grand Cathay to fall back on. The Grand Cathay are led by the Celestial Dragon Emperor and his mighty dragon children. So whether you're wandering around in human or fire-breathing form, his offspring can hand you a hefty advantage out on the field, each boasting a unique selection of spells and buffs for the soldiers they happen to be fighting alongside. And let's be real, you would feel a lot more confident with the dragon chilling next to you, wouldn't you? Even the Grand Cathay folks who aren't related to any flying lizards are a pretty formidable bunch. While everyone else is tooling around with bows and arrows, the Grand Cathay have figured out how to build actual guns and cannons. With all sorts of other ingenious devices at their disposal, plus actual dragons in charge, the Grand Cathay are here to ensure that humanity goes out with a bang and not a whimper.
Led by a winged nightmare known as the Daemon Prince, this nasty bunch will provide a new challenge even for veterans of the First and Second Warhammer Wars. That's because they offer a level of customization which is totally new to the series. Your prince can mix and match units from any of the 4 Chaos gods, so whether you want a legion of Tzeentch flamers or you're all about those beasts of Nurgle, the Daemons of Chaos allow you to form a private army of your own design. And you can customize the prince himself too, outfitting him with new body parts, armor, weapons, and fancy new powers. You can even give him whatever name you find to be fittingly terrifying, so long as it makes it through the profanity filter. After all, he may be a malevolent hellbeast with an unquenchable thirst for blood and vengeance, but he's not a potty mouth.
As well as this tasty mix of human and demon factions to tinker with, early adopters who purchase Total War Warhammer 3 within the first week will also gain access to a DLC faction, the Ogre Kingdoms. Be warned though, these ogres are all mean green killing machines, so hanging out with them won't be all Smash Mouth songs and Eddie Murphy wisecracks. Their ranks contain such colourful characters as Gressius Goldtooth, who rolls into battle on a cart covered in gold and jewellery. And then there's Scrag the Slaughterer, who drags a massive cauldron behind him in which to deposit the dismembered body parts of his enemies. Ogre magic is as equally as gruesome. There's the Brain Gobbler, where the caster bites down into a fallen foe's skull to project its nightmares into the minds of other enemies. Or the Tooth Cracker, which involves crunching a bunch of granite to invoke a massive defense boost. As vicious as the Khorne are, and as vicious as the Nurgle are, the ogres add a whole new dimension to Total War Warhammer 3.
Whichever faction you choose, you can be sure that the battle will be full of deadly warriors, devious spells, and people with incredibly silly names. And that's Warhammer. We can't wait to join the battle on PC Game Pass on day 1, aka February 17th. And let us know who you plan to main in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for all the latest Xbox and PC Game Pass news. See you next time.